You're going to be far happier with the result than you would the level of frustration and burning the midnight oil of trying to figure it out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode on the Owwll podcast. And most importantly, this is a call-in show now. So during this episode today, we're literally going to go live on Owwll app. We're one of the few podcasts that does this. Pretty much you'll get the opportunity to be brought into the show. And I love having this guest on to talk about this because this man over here, wrote the book, Podcast Sucks. Yes. And he's always in my comments telling me my podcast sucks. But guess what? He's here in the studio today and he loves podcasting. So we're going to learn all about podcasting today. And of course, call him afterwards on the Owwll app 101. What's up, Sebastian Rusk?
Everything's up, Jason Hill. How we doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Everything's going good. So I got a bone.
I made it up here.
I got a bone to pick with you.
Sure.
You said,
what else?
Don't call your show the blank podcast, right?
Yeah.
And then I did the typical mistake. I called it the Owwll podcast.
You know why you don't do that, right?
I want to know. Tell the audience.
It's obvious and redundant. So
Yes.
What should happen is right below Connect, Learn, and Grow should be the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music icons to say listen on, available on, which make it even more obvious without saying the word podcast that it is in fact a podcast.
See, everybody listening, this is why you got to connect with experts on the Owwll app because you just don't always know everything. But guys like him know those little details. He's A/B tested everything. And he has a lot of knowledge and he could share it with you one-on-one and also get you on other podcasts. He knows which ones to go after, which ones can accelerate your business. So Sebastian, tell us, I guess, the 101 of what you do, right? So many people see your book, they see you speak on stages, and obviously you're a character. You have the shirt Podcast Sucks, you got a hat here on the table. But explain to our audience, start at square one. Someone wants to reach out to you, what do you do?
I hope people go from idea to iTunes in 90 days or less by starting a podcast with our proven podcast launch solution. So people come to us because they're busy. They don't have time to figure it out. They don't want to figure it out. They want to get to the finish line faster and they want to work with the best in the game. So we have a 90-day program that we run them through. 30 days of that 90-day program, we work one-on-one together. So we create the strategy, the brand, the concept, the idea, who you're talking to, what you're talking about, how you're talking about it, when you're talking about it, your equipment, your first couple episodes, and then we get the show launched, and then we support them ongoing in our incubator program where we do all of the monthly production for them for 4 episodes, micro content, detailed show notes, uploading of new episodes, everything that would be an absolute time suck and would be a reason that your podcast would end up in the podcast graveyard is what we do for people. So
what is the stat right now? How many end up in the graveyard?
I think it's still the first 7 or 8 episodes people don't make it past.
What is the stat, start to failure? Is it 90%? Go in the graveyard?
It's a significant amount.
50%.
I think there's 3 million podcasts on Apple Podcasts, and I think less than 1 million are active podcasts. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but
you bring up a lot of valid points. Obviously, I have 2 podcasts these days, the Shrimping and the Owwll podcast.
So cool.
And I know how hard it is with just the wires, right? Yeah. You end up buying this wire right here, and then all of a sudden it has the wrong prong. And then all of a sudden, Apple devices,
yeah, they have 3.
They're going to change. So if I get the next Apple device, this won't work anymore.
Right.
But then there's this little prong here. And it's you get so frustrated. You're on Amazon, you buy stuff, it shows up, and you're wait, it doesn't work. Then you got to run to Best Buy. And then the tripod doesn't fit right. And then the TV, is the sensors, the colors, and the camera you buy, and the lens. There's so much sophistication that goes into the equipment alone. And most people end up screwing up.
That's why I stay completely away from anything technical when it comes to podcast equipment. I've got a studio too, so I've got a Rodecaster and mics and cameras and all that stuff. But the average person, sure, they can get that set up if they have the resources and they have the people on their team to be able to go and do all of that. Most do not. And in a confused mind will always say no in any facet.
Yeah.
More times than not. And being able to give someone a pile of equipment and say, go plug this in and good luck, that contributes to pod fade.
Yes.
It contributes to starting and stopping. But if you have a microphone that plugs directly into your computer via USB and you've got an HD camera and a $30 ring light in front of you, you're off to the races. And most people can set up in a 3x3 space enough to be able to record, because most podcasts are recorded remotely. I'm completely against.
We have the stat on that. What is it? 98%, 99% are remote? Or
yeah, I mean, it's
is it
just
that high? I don't know.
Getting people together in 2023 is like walking cats. It's a less.
I know getting you from Miami to Boca.
I had to drive to.
I had to like really like. I had to
pack a lunch. I had to stop. There was no
text
rest
you like
stops.
25 times.
I stopped at the visitor center in Fort Lauderdale on the way up here. It was quite the venture up here, but we did it. And case in point, that's exactly my point.
Yeah, but look, now we get a book, right? And all our guests coming in, we'll get to see Podcast Sucks.
You got a couple of them.
I get your autograph here, and I'll leave it up front, of course.
We'll sign the wall too.
Of course.
It's a must. But most podcasts are recorded remotely, and because of that, you're able to streamline the process. Technically, my boy Gary V has preached for years. You can record a podcast with this thing right here. Just plug a microphone in, get in front of some lighting, get in front of a window, and hit record, and get the content out. And that's what we tell a lot of people. Like, I understand, before we start getting all crazy and swinging for the fences here, why don't you get really, really good at conceptualizing what you want to do, getting a proof of concept with 10, 20, 25 episodes, making sure you actually like it and you're going to do the work. And then we can start focusing on equipment and sets and lights and our podcast name having podcast in it. But before all of that, make sure that
not gonna let it go, guys. You hear him. There's going to be a debate on the show.
He fueled me.
Well, it's backing a company up though, so it's a little different than a typical show, right? Like,
whatever you got to tell yourself to get you through the day.
Other ones are a little different, where it's redundant, but ours is purposely redundant so people could just obviously know when they're looking at our social feeds. We're not a podcast; we're a mobile app at the end of the day. So that's also a little bit why.
It could be,
but maybe I made a mistake. We'll find out later.
All you got to do is take the word podcast off. That's it. That's really all you got to do.
And what's it going to be called?
It'll be called the Owwll Hour.
The
Owwll Hour.
Something about wisdom. There we go. Like we did 12 hours of wisdom on Friday.
The Owwll Conversation. Yeah.
Okay, we're on to something.
Yeah, the Owwll anything but
podcast. Yeah. There we go.
Right. Yeah, give a hoot. Yeah, there we go. I'd call it the Give a Hoot Show.
Give a Hoot Show.
Yeah,
okay, we're on something.
Yeah, we are. That one's free.
Stephanie's getting excited. Now we're going to have to rebrand the whole thing after all the hard work she did to all the projects.
Starting over is a beautiful thing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the early side of a podcast, right? When people are, hesitant to hire somebody and they typically go on YouTube and they start searching things and they're like, I could just do that myself. It's not that hard. But of course, most people fail, right? Because they're cheap and they end up not just reaching out to someone in your shoes and really getting that knowledge on how to launch. And it's worth every penny, of course, right? Most of the time when you hire someone, if you spend $10,000, you get $30,000 back of value. I'm a big believer of that, right? Obviously, I put my money behind an app that does a lot of stuff. Yeah. So, and I did that myself, right? When I launched the Shrimp Tank podcast, I was like, no way, not learning how to buy this equipment. I don't care about, the guest scheduling and all this jazz. I want someone to just show me what to do, show notes, the website, how to get it, on iTunes and Google Podcasts, Spotify. Like, I didn't want to learn all that. So tell us like the secrets behind the scenes. Like, what does someone get in the first 90 days? Why should someone hire you?
So first of all, I can change the oil in my car if I really wanted to. I can go over to Advanced Auto and buy some oil and a filter and a wrench. And I don't know what the hell I do with the oil after it. I mean, technically, if I wanted to do all that, I could. But I can also go around the corner and pay Jiffy Lube $75 and be out of there in less than 10 minutes. So same applies to anything. We try to do it yourself out there. And most people, the main reason most people go out of the loan is because number one, they have that do it yourself. I've got it. I can figure it out. And there's probably a little bit of scarcity mixed in there too, because I'm not going to pay for something that I can learn. I can go watch it. But in reality, and I used to think like that for a long time. And then I realized, wait a second, there's people that are better at things than I am. I'm a huge advocate, and I know you are too, that if you don't like doing something, go find somebody that does like doing it and hire them. You're going to be far more happier with the result than you would the level of frustration and burning the midnight oil of trying to figure it out. With our 90-day program, first thing we do is we sit down and figure out why in the world you're starting a podcast. We get clear on why you're starting a podcast. We can start to formulate the strategy and the brand and get an idea of what we can potentially do with this show. What I specifically teach is you should be starting a podcast for two reasons and two reasons only. The first one being to solve all of your social media content problems, because you absolutely suck at your social media content on a daily basis. That's most people. It's a pretty blanket general statement. And then the second one is, who can you interview that you can build a relationship with that you can sell something to? So it becomes a lead generation tool.
Relationships.
Right. Exactly. So
that's literally on the front of our website, right? Owwll's all about building rich relationships at the end of the day, meaningful connections, because often people forget that in business, right? Everyone wants to jump to like running Facebook ads and building a pipeline of clients, and like eventually it fails because they don't have meaningful relationships.
You got to get really,
And
really, really good at
podcasting
one thing.
literally, puts that on a platter for people, right? But it's hard, right? Because everyone wants to jump to like, I interviewed someone, why aren't they becoming a client? It's like, that's not how this works.
No, it's a slow burn.
It's you're
going to interview 10 people and you may do business with one if you're lucky. It's not going to be everybody, but that strategy is at least in place. You're not leading with that. You're leading with, I want to connect with this person. I want to build a relationship with this person. I want to create another episode because of this person. And then by default, they may hire me.
But very important, not to make money on the actual podcast, typically through sponsor ads. Like a lot of people I know think they're going to be the next Joe Rogan. And of course, you become that. Congrats. But starting a show to think that I'm doing it because one day I'm going to sell ad space, get sponsors, and it's going to blow up. Like, you don't lead with that.
Never,
correct?
At all. And I tell people, like, listen, I understand you think that you could be the next Joe Rogan. You're probably not going to be. So I'm just going to burst that bubble for you real quick and bring it back down to reality. Not to poo-poo all over your dreams and goals, but Joe Rogan's the biggest podcaster. He's an anomaly, the largest podcaster in the world in 98 countries, and he's been at this for almost 15 years now. Even these larger shows on here, if you look at it, it's a celebrity. It's somebody that has some existing notoriety. Very rarely is this, oh my gosh, that person blew up because they decided to start a podcast.
So you set the expectation right in the early days.
We want to come back down to reality.
We're doing this to do interviews, build meaningful relationships, and that's hard because you got to get the right guest. So those first 90 days, like what are these tips that you're providing? Because a lot of people are kind of like, how hard could this be then? I could just set up my phone on the end of my table, hit record, get a guest on a table, right? Buy $50 mics or no mics and just talk out of a phone.
So do it.
And then I meet someone.
Do it.
But you're doing a lot of different things. You're showing them like, how do you get the right guests?
The people that we work with.
How do you set up the email scheduling so you don't get cancellations if it's in person or online? Cancellations go on both sides.
Yeah.
So like, what are those things that people don't know that they should know, why it's so much harder and why most people fail when they try to do it themselves?
Well, I don't really deal with a lot of do-it-yourselfers as much because the clients that we get the opportunity to work with and attract, they already know that they don't know. And they don't want to figure it out until I tell them exactly how we're figuring it out and how the work that we're actually doing. The only thing I need them to do is understand what we're doing. So we're starting with a blank sheet of paper. Why are we starting a podcast? What are we going to call the podcast? Then we move into the intro and the outro and the teaser and the equipment. And then once we've got that initial stuff recorded, we set up their podcast hosting, which allows us to set up distribution. And once we have distribution set up, then we get their website set up and connect a domain to that. And then we get episodes 1 and 2 recorded and the show launched within like 6 to 8 weeks max. They have 90 days total to do it and the reason I cap it there is because, well, number one, boundaries. Number two, I don't want you signing up today and calling me in March going, I'm ready to go.
Of course.
So that puts lights a fire underneath them to know that there is a sense of urgency there because you've waited and procrastinated enough. So I'm going to ride you like Zorro to make sure you do what you said you're going to do.
Now, tell our audience a couple tips on monetizing on the other side, right? You have a podcast, you have 50 episodes, right? And you're looking for sponsorships now. It's not just about building relationships. What are the best tricks? How do you get sponsors?
You've got to create your own strategy and idea and concept around all of that. You're going to go to businesses and brands and people that know you and believe in you, and you're going to put together what you feel is a fair proposal of a sponsorship package. Our gold package is $100 a month. Our silver package is $200 a month. Our platinum package is $500 a month. And based on each of those packages, here's what you get on each episode. We're going to plug you on social media. We're going to tag you. We're going to mention you in the episode. We're going to get you on the show. You've got to go, and it is a lot of work and it's a grind out there. I recommend finding somebody who really, really likes you, really believes in you, and wants to invest in what you got going on.
Are you a big fan of the live shows, right? You're starting to see LinkedIn, favor the live. If we go live, which we're doing right now, there's a lot of people commenting and it pushed us to the top. YouTube now, you could actually customize it and put podcasts on your YouTube feed, right? So on Owwll, like it says podcasts on there, and now all your shows, are on that stream.
Pulling up YouTube right now. I'm really excited about this. I want to see if there's anybody on here.
Yes. So we'll go on LinkedIn. That's our main feed because it's going on my personal profile. So I have about 12,000 plus connections. So immediately people will see the feed and start commenting. And then of course you got Twitter.
It's not on YouTube. Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Okay. Again, our focus is more over on LinkedIn, but why not go live if you could use a platform like StreamYard and click all your socials and hit as many as you can at once, including Facebook, right? But LinkedIn specifically for professionals that you're speaking about, right? Because if you're partnering with a financial advisor, if you're
LinkedIn's such a gold mine.
with a lawyer, right? They want to communicate to the audience on LinkedIn because the average income on LinkedIn is way higher. It's just more professional. So, do you think that's a hot topic with the people that you're talking to, or they're not ready? Sometimes new people are a little nervous.
We're not going to do anything.
Right. Like you're a professional. You've done this so many times. So you're on air, you're go. But a lot of new people, they're not. They get nervous when the red live button comes on. It's a different show when you know you're being recorded and other people are commenting, of course.
Oh, look at this. Should I comment?
Are you in? How are we doing? How are we doing?
I'm here. I'm great. I think your mother's watching. That's about it.
Okay. Hi, Mom. Are you on YouTube or LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn. I was looking on YouTube as well.
Okay. So there you go.
So, no, I do not recommend going live because it's hard enough to record offline, not going live, and get one episode recorded in a reasonable fashion while the inner critic's going crazy on overdrive here. I'm going to look like crap, sound like crap. Nobody's going to listen. I shouldn't be doing this. I know I should have never started this. What am I doing? What am I thinking? I'm not Sebastian. I'll never be Joe Rogan. I don't sound like Jason. All that stuff starts to go crazy. In and of itself, just recording an episode. We do lights and a camera, and by the way, we got a live audience too. People freak out, and it's a deer in headlights. So we stay way away from that. Let's get 50 episodes underneath our belt and get really good at what we're doing. And then again, we'll start swinging for the fence.
Agree with that. I didn't start going live until my 100th episode around then. And then I started to become more comfortable, just going live right off the bat, starting the show off.
What's it under on YouTube? The Owwll podcast?
Just Owwll, our main feed, Owwll app. So all of our socials are Owwll app, and pretty much as we started posting more on all our socials, we figured why not use StreamYard?
Oh, we're live here on YouTube.
YouTube. Look at you!
Listen,
look at you.
My two favorite platforms, yes. LinkedIn and YouTube. I mean, number one, they're absolute gold mines. So they just they really afford you if you're showing up the right way, if you've properly executed a YouTube, I'm not a YouTube expert. My brother is though, so I've learned a lot becoming a YouTube creator. But people are going to YouTube for two reasons: to be entertained and to get their questions answered. If you can do both, then it's winner chicken dinner all day long. But I've made a conscious effort for the past 3.5 years to build a YouTube strategy to give people the answer to every single thing that anybody's ever asked me about starting a podcast. And there's not a better feeling than someone picking up the phone and calling and going, hey, I just got done watching your YouTube channel.
Perfect segue, because often we've been in that situation where we're on YouTube and we just want to speak with someone to get a quick answer, or we see someone we want to collaborate with, right? Owwll's all about one-on-one networking and really building meaningful relationships, like you just said. So look at this, Sebastian. So now we have the Owwll app up, right? So everyone listening, right? You could get on here on our Wednesday show. We are going to make a call to someone. Okay, well, Sebastian, we got some good news. We got Tanya Davis on the Owwll podcast. Hey, Tanya, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Jason?
Good. You're with Sebastian Rusk. He is a podcast expert. I know we're calling you out of the blue. So are you okay with being live on the show today?
She called me out of the blue the other day.
Oh my God, you guys spoken already?
She's called me out of the blue. Exactly. I'm returning the favor.
Oh, look at this. Now we're calling her. I did not know that. See, that all happened by coincidence.
I asked Jason if we could prank call you, and he said absolutely not. Is that true? Were we able to prank call you?
You can do whatever you want. I'm good.
It's a great answer. It's a great answer, Tanya. See?
Okay, well, now's your time. You could ask her a question. We called her. So, you guys talked in the past, so I'm assuming you listened when she was talking. You know about her a little bit. So ask Tanya a question. Switch it up.
Tanya.
Yeah.
How do you feel about podcasting in business?
I love podcasts, and it's funny that you called, because I was thinking I was going to have to call you again, because I am in the very beginning stages. Like, I want to start a podcast, but I am brand new at podcasting. I want to get the message out about helping people live healthy, balanced lives, but I have no idea where to start. So I'm going to turn it back around on you, and I'm going to ask you, how do I get started?
How does she get started?
Well, you gave yourself some information right there where you said, I want to be able to help people fill in the blank on there. So help people have healthier lifestyles, right? Yes. So how do you do that right now without a podcast?
Right now, I'm doing radios on Clapper. I'm doing lives on TikTok, and I just started doing radios on LinkedIn.
And how are those going so far? And what exactly are you talking about when you're doing that?
It depends. Each one has kind of a different theme. So for TikTok, I do affirmation lives. So we have a conversation. I've built a bit of a community there, and we start off with an affirmation, and we talk about good things that are happening to have positive vibration. And we talk about next steps, things that we can do to accomplish our goals. And then on Clapper in LinkedIn, it's more of guided imagery lives to help people relax and center themselves and be more balanced.
So what's showing up for me, and I'm not a, psychic here, but what's showing up for me based on what you're sharing with me is that maybe starting a meditation podcast is a good idea.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'm actually in the very, very, very beginning stages because I'm a terrible meditator, but I long to meditate. So when I finally do meditate, I can do it for a good 20 or 30 minutes. So I'm like, well, if somebody high energy like myself that struggles to meditate can put together maybe a meditation podcast. Not that I would listen to my own podcast, but it's actually a form of me being able to slow down because I can't be full speed Sebastion when doing a meditation podcast. I'm going to call it Meditation Sucks.
That's going to be a hard podcast for you.
I know it is.
You have to slow down. Like you only have one speed, 110 miles an hour.
So this is I know I'm going to have to record. It's pre-coffee in the morning. I'm going to have to record pre-coffee, like very zenned out. I'm going to have to get in my zone. And it's going to be very therapeutic.
So what happens when you have a guy like me come on? Then all of a sudden it's just not going to work.
No, it's not going to be. It's just me.
You do have two A types.
It's just me.
You need to get introverts.
No, we don't have guests on. Not a meditation
Okay.
podcast. The idea of
doesn't sound like a good podcast. Then if it's like just you and you're like so monotoned. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
That is you. That's
Have you ever listened to a guided meditation?
No.
There we go. See?
Hey, I can center you. I can relax you. I can focus you in
she's got that
minutes.
there we go.
5 minutes.
And that's really all that you need. It can be
That's all I need.
5
is
minute, 10 minute, 15 minute, 20 minute. You can do different time frames on episodes. But today we're talking about integration. So let's just get into a comfortable space. Let's take a couple deep breaths. We got some water music playing in the background a little bit. And let's focus on what's really important today. What do we really want to set an intention to achieve today? What does that look like? Well, and then it's a lot of silence, and then it's more guidance. And it's stuff you're already doing, Tanya. It's a matter of just organizing it into the format of a podcast so that the podcast is a meditation / affirmation type of podcast. And then our TikTok lives, our LinkedIn lives, all the rest of the other stuff is complementing that content. So the podcast is the main pillar piece of meditation content. People are like, oh my God, I found your podcast, Tanya. I never meditated before. You make it so easy. I love it. I listened to it. I shared it with everybody at Thanksgiving. It was amazing. So that's your in for developing relationships and figuring out how that then converts back to your business. We're able to do business with them.
Is she able to have a book like this?
Absolutely.
This Meditation Sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. We already got the title.
We need to get her a copy of that book too.
We do. We can make that happen.
Yeah, we told Tanya, you're going to copy the book.
We could give you her address after hours. And
yes, I appreciate that.
Mildly terrifying for her. Yeah, you're just.
She is an Owwll brand ambassador.
There we go. Okay, cool.
She's an Owwll brand ambassador. So the good news here is this book will stay in here signed, and when she gets to the next level, when she becomes a gold brand ambassador, she'll get one in the mail.
Boom.
There it is.
Tanya,
you're getting a book from Sebastion.
I got to get some calls. I hit my 100. I hit my 100 calls. So
you're doing a great job, Tanya. Don't worry. Don't listen to what Jason tells you. Okay. I'm telling you right now, you're doing a great job. But I definitely think based on what you've told me, all jokes aside, you should totally start a meditation podcast, meditation / affirmation podcast that complements your brand, allows you to really shine and take all of the gold out of you and get it into the world and impact other people's life for the better. Because everybody needs to meditate, including Jason.
Yes, absolutely. Running this business called Owwll app, I could use some meditation.
It is
these stress levels of all the keyboard warriors out there commenting and of course shooting us emails. The App Store, you get a little bit of everything running a mobile app. Of course, a lot of criticism. So
just give me 5 minutes, Jason. I'm telling you,
I will be your first guest on the meditation podcast.
Ooh,
there's no guest on meditation podcast. For crying out loud, we've already covered this.
Okay, well, Tanya, thanks for joining us on the Owwll podcast.
Tanya, you're the best.
You are awesome.
Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
Okay, so for everybody out there looking at the screen, now we get to leave her a review. We're going to put great call, and we're going to call one more person on today's show. So for everyone,
how's your gum?
It's your first time looking in. How's my what?
How's your gum?
My gum?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I thought you had some gum.
I have some gum in my mouth. What am I speaking right now?
I think you do have gum. I think you got caught. Does he have gum?
I have no gum here. So
Oh,
everyone listening, you said view
Maybe it
all,
wasn't.
and then you can look at all these experts. We got a dog trainer here. We got a president and CEO of a marketing company. We have an expert when it comes to life after divorce in here. And we got a little bit of everything in here.
We could turn this into a comedy podcast real quick.
We absolutely can. Now, I would like to call Jennifer, but she's $55, so we're not going to call her.
This is like OnlyFans.
OnlyFans for experts. Absolutely. Who do you want to call? You be the guest. You see all these people. You want a substance abuse counselor, Eric Allen?
Yeah, we got like 10 minutes left. What do you want to jam about?
Let's jam about someone. Let's go. Oh, we got Chella. Let's call Chella. Okay. Well, what do you want to jam about while we're waiting for her to pick up?
It's your show.
So it's my show.
You got 10 minutes left. Use it wisely.
Well, it's with Chella. Good morning, Chella. Good afternoon, Chella. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
Chella, you are live on the Owwll podcast. Are you okay with being recorded live?
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, congratulations, Chella. She just became a gold brand ambassador. We just posted her on socials.
Nice.
And she's doing some awesome things in her local community as well as all across the United States. So, Chella, for our audience listening, and Sebastian Rusk, give us your elevator pitch in under 30 seconds. Who are you? What do you do?
Chella, coming to you from Orange County, California.
Let's go.
Guiding service-based women entrepreneurs to increase their fees and create the life they desire.
Love it.
Sebastian, follow-up question. Shoot, should all her clients have podcasts? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially service-based business. That's a huge vertical for us.
So I asked Chella a question about it. Is she doing that with her clients or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Your show. It's your show today.
First of all, Orange County.
You're the host right now. We're just interviewing the people we're calling right now. You're my co-host.
I don't know who's on first here. Chella. Chella, first of all, Orange County is my old stomping grounds. I spent 10 years in Newport Beach, California. Wasn't a bad place to be stuck.
Oh, I'm sweet. I'm 4 miles away from Disneyland.
Oh, I love it. I got mad love for the OC. So tell me, what kind of things do you encourage your clients to do when it comes to creating content?
That's really great. Oh my goodness. That's a $5,000 question.
I think that's $100,000 question right there. Because if you crack the code on that, you'll make six figures with no problem. But most people can't.
Exactly.
They can't get customers. They can't get clients.
This is true.
So they just jump one platform to the next and blame it on the platform, right? It's Owwll's fault. Then it's Instagram. Now it's Clubhouse's fault because they changed the whole platform last week. Nope, it's your fault, right? It's easy if you could build relationships, right?
Yeah, it's slow burn.
Right. Well, yeah, right. I say this, we're going for the marathon. This is not the 100 dash. And so I tell my clients to come from a place of service. What tips, what value can we add? So I believe in LinkedIn. I believe in being a guest on podcasts.
Ooh.
Because you're getting to highlight and shine your light on your area of expertise. And then you have people coming to you, which is a phenomenal place to be.
Yep. You got to be consistent, though, in order for that to be. You got to be consistent and, more importantly, patient.
Patience, yes, absolutely.
That's a grossly underrated strategy of being able to.
I will piggyback that, though. A lot of people end up starting a podcast and don't have a good call to action. So what ends up happening is they're at the 100th row, the 200, and they keep saying, "Oh, it's just patience." Everyone's like, "Don't worry, it's just going to come. It's going to come." And I've witnessed people do 500 shows and nothing came. So I also think to piggyback the patience is also having a clear message, a clear call to action, a clear follow-up. Follow-up is huge, right? Often on a lot of my shows, I end up then reaching back out to the guests and saying, "Hey, let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's grab lunch, or let's jump on Zoom today," because more people don't even want to meet for lunch. They just want to jump on Zoom and then just chat naturally after the show, right? You made a great impression on them during the show. Now make things happen. And of course, have a business structure where it's clear, right? Because often it's like they just hope that they do shows and then money just pops up, clients just pop up, but they don't have a clear message. And I've been on a lot of shows, and so have you, Cello. And it's just like you go on a show and nothing happens. They post you once, and you're like, really? You didn't even try to like knock on my door in the future?
Yeah.
What was the point? Right? I mean, you're the podcast expert, so you tell me.
Yeah, being able to, the goal, that's the initial touch points, getting them on the podcast, and then normally connect on socials with them. And yeah, you're sharing content from there. We like to share content from past episodes months later too. So, but at least you're in that person's ecosystem. That's the most important part. Not that you have to have some hardcore aggressive follow-up system, because you don't want it to come across like I only had you on my podcast so I could sell you something.
Oh,
you want that to be
a natural.
You want that to be exactly a natural reaction on there.
Not everyone's as aggressive as I am, right, Sebastian?
You're aggressive.
When you came on, I was like, okay, let's go. Give me your wallet. Give me your money. No, I was kidding. I'm just saying.
I have a question. What do you think about, after you're a guest and I'm a guest, let's say, what do you think about the host making it easy for me to share that podcast?
Good question.
Yeah, so the host should take all of the content and not only share it with you, but put it in a cloud drive or something and send you the link and say, here's the link to the episode, the title of the episode, all of our socials, and here's a folder for you to download the clips and be able to share them on your social. In addition to you sharing them and tagging them as well. I had somebody hit me up yesterday and say, can I have the raw file from the episode? And I'm like, well, you're a buddy of mine, so yeah, I'll do it. But typically, no, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing the podcast episode. But she was very adamant about posting a certain type of content on LinkedIn to gain more traction, which was a video without branding. So I said, okay, go ahead and do that. And she's like, I'll tag you and all the other normal protocol that happens with all of that. So that did make sense, but that's extremely rare that a guest is going to follow up and be like, yo, let me get some content to share. It's your job and responsibility as a podcast host to provide your guest with all of the arsenal that they need in order to properly talk about you and your show. And by default, they're talking about themselves.
Right. Okay. Well, I see that as a win-win. And I usually average about 50. I'm a guest on 50 podcasts a year.
I thought you were going to say a month. I was like, damn, girl.
No.
Doing it. That's good.
A year.
1 a week.
That's 1 a week. That's great.
That's
yeah.
Not too shabby. Put an hour in your schedule a week for a show.
And how do you get on these shows?
Well, this is my 9th year doing it.
Wow. Nice. See?
So
talk about patience and commitment. Nice work.
Consistency.
Yeah.
And so initially I just applied. I mean, the applications that I applied, I created my one-page speaker. I made it easy.
Very
for the
important.
host.
One page.
Yeah, you need a one.
Now up to like one sentence.
Yeah.
No one reads a page anymore.
Well, you don't, but it could be
take a page that's 6 paragraphs and make it 3 sentences. I'm serious, because no one reads anymore. You got to be catchy. It's like, it's hard.
You do.
A lot of people.
You got to be good looking like me.
Yeah, correct. With that type of hairdo, I agree.
Yeah, I do. I don't have a hairdo.
And I also provided questions that made it easy for the host. Possible questions for you to ask me.
Yeah.
And so people like that. They appreciate that. And of course, I usually do my homework. So I listen to a couple of the shows first to see if I'm a fit. Do I want to be in front of their audience?
So you pitched the show on you being a guest.
Initially, I did.
Yeah.
8 years back, I did. Now, they kind of come to me and I get recommended.
Good. That's good. That's good. See, but had you not done, you didn't put the cart before the horse. You went in and put the work, did the pitching, and then the pendulum shifts.
But she can now just show her other episodes. She just send a link.
Right.
Like, hey, I was on these 4 episodes.
Plus, when they pull her name up in Apple Podcasts, all the podcasts she's ever been on other shows are going to show up. Of
course.
Too. So that's always
there are pages and pages and pages on Google.
Yeah, the girl.
How are you leveraging Owwll to get on podcasts then?
Oh my goodness! So I am so proud of Owwll. I got to tell you, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I booked myself on 5 podcasts within the last 3 weeks.
So you hear that, Sebastian? You don't need all these crazy podcast services. You can just call people and say, oh, I see you have a podcast. Tell me about it. And before you know it, they love to have you on as a guest because they're verbally speaking with you. They don't have to read through the one-pagers and really go through all socials. They see it all on Owwll.
To call people, though.
Poor thing. You have to call people. What do you do on a podcast? You speak to people.
You use a telephone.
Poor thing.
It's 2023. I want to text people. When's the text option dropping for Owwll?
Just for you, 2027.
Yeah, I want to text.
Working on it.
Could you imagine? There would be no calls ever if there was. But think about it. Hey, we may want to go there because most people
text. Look, there's a lot of apps that pay for text. A lot of people ask us that. But at the end of the day, it's like the whole idea that we're different by one-on-one audio calls for us old school folks that want to chat. But you're a podcast. You love speaking, please. Come on.
Don't speak for me, Jason.
I will try not to. Speaking sucks. Next book.
Kelly, you're crushing the podcast, the podcasting. So keep it up.
Yes.
You're leading the pack as an example on go put in the work. You got to play for a couple of years. Hey, look at me over here. And the pendulum shifts. And then you start to identify even easier opportunities to get on shows. So nice work doing that. Most will not do what you're doing. So,
and social proof. I think at the end of the day, when folks like Chella go on and she's resharing their shows and other people see, then they immediately are attracted to it, where, we've had guests on, and then what ends up happening, sometimes our guests, we give them all these files. Our marketing team spends hours putting together clips, and we share it with them, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes people have been on too many shows and their feed's going crazy, and sometimes it doesn't work out. So sometimes getting guests that haven't been on as many works out a lot better. I do find. So finding the right guest is important, but she has social proof. She has, our LinkedIn posts going out, and then people say, oh, this is a great guest to have on. Well, Chell, thank you for coming on the Owwll podcast today. We appreciate it. Great question.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. Wishing you a fantabulous rest of the week.
Yeah, likewise. Nice meeting you.
Take care, Chella. There you go. You might have your next guest, Sebastian.
Love it.
Okay, so we're going to leave her a 5-star review and put great call. And for everybody listening, it's that easy. You go in the Owwll app. You could go live, take calls. You could search all these experts right here, contact them, get on some podcasts, network, and build relationships. And of course, call this guy, Sebastian Rusk. You're thinking about a podcast, of course, he could, walk you down the right path. Talk to him on Owwll. He'll answer any questions, see if it's a fit. And of course, if you're trying to monetize your show, of course, he has all the different angles. Last words of wisdom. What should our audience know? Just call you on Owwll. Anything else you want to share with our
connect on socials. Find me on socials, Sebastian Rusk. I hang out on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And if you've had that nudge, if you've had that gut instinct, if you've had somebody tell you, if you saw a billboard, if you saw that, whatever it is that said, hey, maybe I should start a podcast, that, my friend, is reason in and of itself that you should give it a closer look. And when you give it a closer look, ask yourself one question: why should I start a podcast? And once you start to get clear on why you should start a podcast, and by the way, when you start to get excited and you get that funny feeling in your stomach and you're like, yeah, I can do that, that's usually you coming up with why you actually want to do something. And it's just a matter of getting started, coming up with a name, coming up with a strategy, recording a few episodes, finding out if you actually have something that can be of substance that people actually want, get feedback from people that'll tell you the truth, and then see what can come from it. And it's a process on there. And if you don't want to go through any of that process on your own, that's where our team would come in, and we can help you get to the finish line faster. Or you can read my book and do what it says, and go to my YouTube channel and learn about what's possible with starting a podcast. But podcasting will in fact change your life and your business if you let it.
Yes. And I will agree with what he just mentioned, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for podcasting, right? I started out as, doing my thing when I moved to Florida and starting the shrimp tank. And then all of a sudden it led to 250 plus episodes and have almost 50 episodes on the Owwll podcast. And it all goes right back to building meaningful relationships and connections. And that's why I built Owwll at the end of the day, to make it easier for people to connect, learn, and grow. So that's everything for today's episode. Take care, everybody.
Post-production for the Owwll podcast is done with care by Ocean Tree Creative.